Hey everyone, I'm Rob Flattery from the Rocky Mountain College of Art and Design, also known as RMCAD.
Today we're feeling the music by making hip-hop beats using Ableton Live. This fun tutorial is one of the several skills that you'll learn as a RMCAD student. Our programs vary in diversity while providing you the knowledge you need to thrive as a young artist. We offer technologies like this on our Wondering Pixel as well as in our classrooms. Today's workshop is being taught by our Chair of Music Production, Sean Paquet. Sean is both a professional and a scholar in the realm of music production. So listen up and enjoy.
Hi everybody. Today we're going to make a beat. We're going to kind of do it in a hip hop style influenced by Jay Dilla and explore kind of wonky hi-hats in relation to kind of kick snare patterns and how kind of thinking about quantizing hi-hats in different ways away from kind of the normal multiple of 2 or multiple of 4, that is 8th notes or 16th notes for hi-hats, kind of stepping outside of that grid and importing other meters like 3, 5, 7 as equal beat divisions within the bar, help us create a sense of wonkiness that is really mathematically precise as well. So let's hop over to a MIDI track here. I'm going to be in Ableton creating this beat. Ableton provides some really easy mechanisms for drum programming, so it's a great way to get started. And I'm going to select drums, and rather than build my own drum rack, which is normally advised, we're going to just search for something that is kind of the style that we want. So this Alley Cat kit has a hip hop feel, hi-hat, snare, nice and kind of dirty sounds. We're not going to focus on sound design and kind of how that, all the samples align with the style or things we could do to them. We're just going to kind of accept the samples for what they are today and focus more on the patterns. So to get started with the pattern, I'm going to double click and create an empty clip here in session view. We could do this in arrangement view by hitting tab, but we're not working across multiple tracks and we're kind of prototyping, as it were. And session view is a fantastic place for doing things live. So as the name of the application suggests. So let's stick in session view, create an empty clip in this first slot here under the Alley Cat kit. And I'm going to focus on the kick, the snare, and well, we can use a couple different hi-hats. Maybe we'll start with this hi-hat right here. So to get started, let's take a look at what our bar length is. We have 1 bar right now in 4/4 time. So if we look up here, this gives us our time signature at a tempo of 120 beats per minute. So that means the quarter note gets the beat, which is what the bottom part of the time signature indicates, and that there are 4 quarter notes that fill a bar. So those quarter notes, when we look at the tempo, pass at a rate of 120 quarter notes per minute. That's a little bit fast for hip hop, so I'm going to take this and drop it, but we're going to keep the 4/4 structure. And that gives us our kind of straight ahead anticipated feel. If I put 4 kicks on the floor, 4 on the floor, we have a kick on each quarter note, and that establishes our quarter note pulse. And this is, a little bit of a down tempo hip hop. We can accentuate the backbeat now by turning the kicks into snares. Taking a step in the right direction there. And we can also accentuate the hip hop feel of this by adding a kick to the 8th note after the 3rd beat, so the 3 end. And there's a couple other things we can do as well with the kicks and snares. But let's turn our attention to the hi-hat here. So I'm going to think about hi-hats as being kind of very much on the grid first. That is a straight feel where we play a hi-hat on every 8th note to reinforce that just simple quarter note groove. And everything is very precise here. Electro kind of has a lot of mechanical beats that function like this. We could also double it up. I'm going to hit B and just fill in all of these hats. B switches to the pen tool, which you can also click on up here in the top right hand corner. Just allows you to quickly draw the MIDI events in. Okay, so that's a quicker 16th note feel, but fundamentally still a straight, everything aligned on the grid, a multiple of 2 being the kind of key or underlying structure for how we're subdividing the beats. So if we want to kind of deviate from that, we're going to need to think outside of the multiples of 2 subdivision structure. And 4 is a multiple of 2, so as we just heard with those 16th notes, that doesn't change things up too much. 8 would be a multiple of 2. We can kind of explore some interesting things once we hop into 32nd notes by subdividing each beat into 8. I'm going to right click and switch to 8th notes and then also triplet grid. So you have to right click for each of those. And now we have, a way to equally subdivide each beat into 3 evenly spaced 8th notes. So this third beat is where all the interesting stuff happens, where they clash, right? Where we get the evenly spaced 8th note kicks against the 8th note triplets. So we have a 2 against 3 cross rhythm that happens on that third beat. If we want to drop out the second beat, we can create a swung feel. So we play 1 and 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, skipping the 2. So I'd call this beat fully swung, using that 8th note triplet feel, and we can see it as a deviation against where the 8th note should be. Let's start cataloging some of this. I'm going to create a multiple copies. I'm going to switch out my open hi-hat here, and I'm going to create, oops, don't want to do that, multiple copies of the hi-hat, just so I can start to compare different types of grooves. Let's delete that. We'll create a couple different ones. Okay, going back to the clip, we have this. Let's take all of these and move them up here, and let's put our straight groove underneath it, switching back, turning off the triplet grid, B, switch to the pen tool, draw in our straight groove, and then we can highlight, hit 0, or we can right click here to deactivate notes and toggle activating or deactivating different hi-hat patterns. So the hi-hat here on the bottom is straight. This one above it is our triplet feel, fully swung. Let's create different types of swing though, because we could position a hi-hat that falls in between, each beat, right? That hi-hat that should fall right on the 8th note here on the end, but we can kind of push it to fall somewhere between the straight 8th note and the fully swung 8th note triplet by using other mathematical subdivisions. So one way to do that, of course, is turning off my pen tool, just slide it and trying to guesstimate right around there. But I want to be more precise than that. I still want to think about this as a quantized beat, just using subdivisions that are, higher orders of a triplet or tuplet feel. So we're going to subdivide the beat. Well, we already tried, 4 were 16th notes. That still feels really straight and metronomic and very precise, and it just reinforces the straight feel just at a faster tempo because it's a multiple of 2. So the next multiple to explore would be a multiple of 5. And the way to do that is a little bit trickier because we don't have a quintuplet grid that we can switch to within Ableton to view 5 evenly spaced note events happening as a subdivision within the span of 1 beat. So there's no option there. We can kind of hack it though. If we click on 16th notes again, switch back to our pen tool, I'm going to draw in 6 16th notes, and it gives me a little control point that's over the top or the beginning of the 16th note. And that allows me to scale the notes down so that 5, the 5 preceding that 16th note, fit within the space of 1 beat. So notice how that perfectly aligns with 5 16th notes filling the space of 1 beat, or what would be traditionally on a regular non-tuplet grid, 5 in the space of 4 16th notes. So I'm going to get rid of the 6th one because that just articulates the downbeat of the next beat. And now we have our grouping of 5. The 6 16th note is useful just to kind of create that control bar that allows you to pull the beginning of it back to the beginning of the second beat in the measure. So now if I, careful with the pen tool, the pen tool aligns itself with whatever grid is visible. So we actually need to switch off of it if we want to delete some of these. Let's delete the 2nd, 3rd, and 5th quintuplet 16th. That gives us only the 1st and the 4th one remaining. I'm now going to turn off the triplet feel, and we have this, which falls exactly in between the straight and the fully swung beat. I'm going to duplicate it, Command D, I'm going to duplicate it again, and then just drag to align it to the grid. The issue is that we can't just easily drag and align that second note event within the beat to align with the quintuplet feel because we can't, as Ableton doesn't give us a quintuplet grid. But we know we can be mathematically precise if we duplicate and align the first hi-hat with every quarter note beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. The first one falls directly on the beat, and the second one is kind of up in the air and establishes that quintuplet feel. Okay, so that's a little bit wonkier. I kind of like that. And we hear that tension most immediately between the grouping of 5, and it's kind of a virtual 5, right? We only hear the 1 and the 4 of it against an evenly spaced 2. So these are kind of a way to explore more complicated beat subdivisions. Let's explore a couple others quickly. Let's turn this one off, and let's now try and squeeze 7 16th notes into the space of 4. So I'm going to draw out 8, take that control point, pull it back so that the 8th one aligns with the second quarter note of the bar, delete that, turn off my pen tool, and I'm going to get rid of the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th septuplet. Oops, gonna actually delete it. 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, and then the 6th and the 7th. So now we have just the 1st and the 5th note, 16th note quintuplet being played within the bar. Again, a way to kind of accentuate an upbeat to each beat, but in a way that kind of lags behind the straight feel and gives us another option. Let's duplicate that out just as we did the others. Align the first one with the beat, align it with the 3rd beat there, align it with the 4th beat there. Awesome. And then as a final option, we can kind of go back to the straight grid, but do it in a way that takes advantage of the grouping of 8 evenly spaced subdivisions of the beat for each quarter note. So here we're dealing with 32nd notes, which are half the duration of a 16th note. And if we choose the 6th 32nd note and get rid of everything but the 1st and the 6th 32nd note, we kind of have a grouping that falls, again, another option somewhere in between this straight and swung feel. So let's turn off our septuplets. Here are this dotted 16th. That's how I kind of think of it. This occupies the space of 3/16, where it occurs 1/32 before the last 16th note of the bar. Let's duplicate that out. Turn the pen tool off. Drag that over. There we go. So this is a way to explore different kind of grooves. Everything being swung here within kind of a regular space of having 2 hi-hats happen per beat, but where the second hi-hat happens has a lot of impact on how we kind of feel the groove and how we feel the ebb and the flow of the beat. So we have 5 different options. We have the straight, we have the fully swung triplet, we have the quintuplet feel, we have the septuplet feel, and then we have this 32nd note feel or dotted 16th feel as well. Let's go with the quintuplet feel and let's turn off the rest. As this one's really fascinating, it has a lot of kind of pull and tension, feeling that 4 against 5. Okay, and we can kind of create further subdivisions of this. So let's think about within the space of 1/8 note, how could we kind of create an interesting, smaller micro subdivision of the beat that helps us reinforce the groove or kind of to feel more tension against the straight kick snare pattern. A way to do that is basically the same technique, just at a smaller subdivision of drawing out our 6 notes here, sticking to that quintuplet feel, but we're going to do it on the 32nd note level, and we're going to contract it like that. And now we have a 32nd note quintuplet that allows us to chop up, this groove into a couple different components. So there's a quick we take the first 2 as a lead in to the back to the upbeat here on the hi-hat on the second beat, and we can kind of move this around. So there's no reason it has to be there. We could put it over here. I kind of like it better over there. Let's again create another grouping. Let's bring this to the beginning and let's get rid of the first 3. Reinforces a sense of not quite having a clear understanding of where that 8th note should fall. It keeps it ambiguous and up in the air, and I think that tension is really musically fascinating. And then I think we can take exactly what we've copied over here and move it here. So we clearly understand where the quarter notes are in terms of the rhythm, but these quintuplet subdivisions and then subdivisions of the subdivisions help us to create ambiguity and ultimately create a wonky beat that is more interesting. We can listen to it longer and we can do more variations and manipulations of it to kind of reinforce either lyrical flows or just different kind of formal characteristics of how the beat changes across the entire track.
We have the project file on hand for you to download right now. Check out the link on our website or in the YouTube description to rewatch and follow along. Thanks for watching.